Hey, what's up you guys, it's Caboose bringing you another Marvel's Avengers video, and today what I got for you guys here is a massive breakdown of all the playable characters that are going to be available for Marvel's Avengers when it launches on September 4th. Now, not all the information in this video is going to be brand new info, however, there is quite a bit in here in which we get some more insight from some of the developers working on the game. I also wanted to go over this as I've had a couple of opportunities to play Marvel's Avengers myself, so I wanted to provide some of my insights on some of the characters and the way that they play. But before we get into everything, I wanted to ask you guys, of course, if at any point you enjoy this video, if you could consider leaving a like rating on it, it would show your support and I would really appreciate it. So if you enjoy the video at any point, leaving a like rating would be awesome. And with that said, well, let's jump into this. So IGN posted an article a couple of days ago as part of their IGN first coverage for Marvel's Avengers, in which they were talking to Vince Napoli, who is the lead combat designer working on the game and was formerly working on Sony's God of War team. So yeah, some people might not know this, but the person who helped design a lot of the combat in the newest God of War game is working as the lead combat designer for Marvel's Avengers, and that makes me feel reassured. It makes me feel that we're in the safest hands when it comes to the gameplay for this game, especially for Thor. But Vince Napoli sat down with IGN and broke down all 6 of the playable characters, at least the launch characters for Marvel's Avengers, how they play, what's important and key to their characters, and essentially how Crystal Dynamics structured their gameplay. And first up, we got some details about Black Widow, which turns out was the team's first character that they wanted to develop and design in terms of her combat, because she was the one that seemed to have the most difficulties. And this is what Vince Napoli had to say. We actually started with Black Widow. She made the most sense to start with because she provides so many challenges, especially going up against some of the crazier God-powered, God-tier heroes. And when it comes to her gameplay, Vince Napoli elaborates, she's incredibly fast, she's incredibly agile. She has the fastest melee attacks and melee combos in the game. She's also able to alternate between her electric batons as her heavy attacks, and you use those differently than her melee attacks on the light button, and switch between her multiple ranged weapons as well. Black Widow's also got quite the artillery between automatic pistols, dual-wielding rapid pistols, and a heavy caliber magnum. It turns out though that apparently one of the key things when it comes to Black Widow's gameplay is her stealth, and I did get a glimpse of this when I got to play as the character during the A-Day demo, and I mean, you see this yourself if you watch the A-Day demo, and of course I'm talking about her ability to go invisible. We saw this in the A-Day demo when you're fighting against Taskmaster, and I'm assuming this is going to be a large part of her gameplay when it comes to utilizing stealth with Black Widow. And this is what Vince Napoli has to say. Some of the most interesting and fun play we see with her is the ability to enter stealth. You stealth very quickly, get out of it, and then enter it again. If you're playing her well, you do feel like you're constantly escaping the battlefield, entering the battlefield, tricking the enemies constantly. And IGN mentions in the article that Black Widow has the ability to have multi-takedowns, insta-kills, affect teammates from her stealth, and even have the ability to have the team enter the stealth mode. All that sounds kind of awesome to me. Black Widow was the character that I was of course not the most impressed with when I got to play A-Day, and all of this information about her character makes her seem like an extremely fun character to play. But next up in the article, we got some details about Captain America, which is of course the character that I'm most looking forward to playing out of all of them. It's the character that I had the most fun playing as when I got to play A-Day, and is up there as just one of my favorite Avengers. And well, it looks like Crystal Dynamics is still playing a little coy about what goes on with Captain America. They still want to make you believe that Captain America died at the beginning of the game, which, come on, there's no way that's the case. But regardless of them dodging the question of whether or not Captain America comes back, they still gave us some new details about his gameplay. Vince Napoli says this: throwing the shield is obviously so iconic and needed to feel so special. His shield throw actually has its own built-in range combo. It's a unique characteristic the other characters don't have, which is that his ranged attack actually works like a combo. And then Vince Napoli goes on to say this: so perfect timing as you catch it and throw it will increment his throws and create different throws and reactions on the enemies. He also has a special counter kickback, which is when you use his charge throw. After it hits the last enemy, if you can time the kickback ahead of time, he'll jump up and kick the shield back and meet it as it's returning, and he'll kick it back out and hit once again all the targets that you were able to target with his charge throw. Now, some of the things mentioned here do sound familiar to me. I remember using that charge throw and having the kickback. However, I don't remember having to time the kickback myself. It sounds like that was a new thing that was implemented to the game after my opportunity playing the A-Day demo, and it also just sounds in general like something that's a little more interactive with Cap's gameplay, which I like. The next character up in this massive breakdown for IGN is about the Incredible Hulk, and Jonathan Dornbush, who is the writer of the article, actually said says here that they mentioned Hulk Ultimate Destruction, the old PS2 Hulk game, and Vince Napoli actually went back and played Hulk Ultimate Destruction to get a bit of an idea as to how that character played and how he felt in that game and why Hulk's gameplay was so satisfying in that game. And while based on my experience and based on what's being said in this article, there is still plenty of that just brute force Hulk gameplay that you'll come to expect, Crystal Dynamics also wanted to see if there was a way that players can take control of the Hulk strategically. And so it's mentioned here, other than being able to utilize his rage and smash through stuff and feel that overwhelming sense of power, what would my gameplay strategy be as Hulk? What would a realistic gameplay strategy be as him if you were a Hulk player? Vince goes on to say, what if we took the idea of weaponization? Hulk is basically all about weaponizing the environment and weaponizing the enemies or weaponizing the combat scenario around him. And what I mean by that is that that's actually why he's able to pick up and wield enemies as weapons. And yes, you can literally do that. You've seen it in the A-Day demo, and I've played it myself. You can literally pick up people as the Hulk and throw them or beat other people with the person in your hands. It's freaking amazing. But continuing with the article, Vince Napoli provides an example as to what he's talking about. He says here, I'm going to prepare at the beginning of this fight because I'm going to rip up part of the ground and turn it into a giant boulder. And then I'm going to start the fight by leaping off the highest thing I can and dive bomb into the fight with my giant boulder. And for example, using the status effect, you can make that a cosmic infused boulder. You can radiate the boulder with gamma. I don't know about you guys, but Hulk is shaping up to be a really fun, really rewarding player for somebody that wants to take their time and not just full on rush into every encounter, although you can do that. He was without a doubt one of the most fun characters that I got to play as, and I'm really looking forward to leveling him up and getting some cool gear for the character and seeing what these cosmic infused boulders are going to look like in game. But moving on, we got a breakdown for Iron Man, and according to this article, Iron Man was a character that Crystal Dynamics felt a lot of pressure to get right, of course because of how much of a popular character he's become through the comic books and especially through the MCU. And I feel like Crystal Dynamics took the right approach with the character in this game in terms of his gameplay, because it's mentioned in the IGN article that they didn't just try to do something completely brand new, but instead they wanted to lean into some of the more iconic moves and things that you would recognize from the movies or from the comic books. And I think that this is the right move simply because there is so much that has been shown off for this character in the past 12 years of movies that he's been appearing in, so why not just take all that, put it into the game, and then build off of that rather than trying to build the character from the ground up. And Vince is basically saying what I just reiterated. He mentions that way you can actually see him do a lot more of the iconic posing that you see in the movies and the comic panels, and once we had that down, I was like, well, let's do the same with the lasers. Let's give him 24 laser attacks that he could use in melee combat. Hell yes. And then springing off that quote, Vince says, so for example, his heavy combo finisher you can unlock is a pinning missile, which pins the enemy and takes them off and propels them into the air, and then does different like loops in the air and runs different patterns and sends them flying. I love the sound of that. Very much looking forward to seeing it in the game. This portion of the article is capped off as Napoli mentions that there are 36 different kinds of attacks that incorporate Iron Man's ranged moves, and from what the article mentions, they're utilized in his hand-to-hand combat. Alright, the runner-up on the breakdowns that we got here is for Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Now, we don't have too many details in the article for her character, but I did want to elaborate on it a little bit myself, as I did get an extended hands-on demo with the character a couple of months back at EGX. And Crystal Dynamics has a bit of an exciting opportunity as well as a bit of a challenging one with Miss Marvel, as her powers kind of open up a Pandora's box of different abilities that they can incorporate into the game. So Vince mentions that one of the approaches that they took with Miss Marvel was to look for any influences that they could from the rest of the Avengers with her actual moveset. He goes on to say that we'll notice that Miss Marvel's got a version of Black Widow's light trip kick where she sweeps the enemies. She's got a version of Hulk's shoulder ram attack. She's pretty much got a version of every character's attack with a Kamala Khan spin on it, just to give it that feel of she is learning, and where would she be learning from? Where would she actually draw inspiration from? Of course it'd be from the Avengers. And while I understand the logic behind what they were trying to do in constructing Kamala Khan's gameplay, I really hope that she doesn't feel too samey to the other Avengers. With my opportunity playing the character, I didn't really get that feel from her, so I'm guessing that that's a good sign. But last up, Thor, the character that I feel there is no way that Crystal doesn't nail it, considering Vince Napoli worked on God of War, and with the Leviathan axe in that game, you were essentially Thor. And I'm really happy to see here that the folks at Crystal Dynamics wanted to make sure that all of Thor's gameplay didn't just rely on his hammer. Vince Napoli mentions that quote from Thor Ragnarok in which Odin tells Thor, hey, you're not the god of hammers, but with Marvel's Avengers, Crystal Dynamics wanted to make sure their pitch for Thor was that he was not only the god of hammers, but also the god of thunder and lightning. And Vince gives us a little bit of insight as to one of the gameplay features that we did actually get a breakdown of during the War Table stream, and he mentions here that the coolest thing about his combat is that you can trigger his Odin force, and through that Thor can electrify himself, protect himself, counter enemies. But Vince Napoli also said that it has a unique property that adds to every single one of his attacks, and it isn't just as simple as, oh, it just adds lightning damage. It completely changes the impact or the effect that it will have on an enemy. The Odin Force also creates this storm of lightning everywhere that give you defensive and offensive opportunities, and we saw once again in that War Table presentation that it also provides a buff for your teammates. And while yes, they want to channel that God of Thunder aspect of Thor, but he also has the hammer, and Vince Napoli mentions that you can charge Mjolnir into this lobbed grenade style toss where it creates a lightning explosion and creates cluster bombs, or you can change it into the ability to seek out targets in the battlefield, which is not the way its base throw works. And I think we saw a bit of that where we saw the hammer bouncing between enemies before it's recalled back into your hand. And all in all, I mean, come on, Thor looks like he's going to be some of the most fun in this game. But that's it. That's the massive breakdown on all the playable characters in this game. There are some additional tidbits that I did not include in this video, and if you want to read the whole article, it's going to be linked in the description, so you can check it out and read it top to bottom yourself. But with that said, I now want to kick it to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Out of all the character breakdowns here, which character sounds the most exciting and fun to play for you? I want to see you guys sounding off in the comments, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, if you could consider leaving a like rating on it, it would show your support, and I would really appreciate it. I'm Caboose, and you can click on screen to make your way to one of the other videos on the channel, or you can click my logo to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Those links are in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have an opinion, and subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.